It's me again, and welcome to just under 14 minutes of truly unexceptional cars. Yes, we're back in the Perodua Nippa, or should I say Perodua Nippa. I stand corrected, apparently that's how you pronounce it. On our way this time to the Festival of the Unexceptional 2024. For you, that means a few minutes of vomit-inducing, accelerated footage as we trace the journey from the southeast of England all the way up to Grimthorpe Castle for this year's Festival of the Unexceptional. And for us in the Nippa, it was a very, very warm trip up and certainly a warmer trip back, with no tinted windows, no air conditioning, no anything really apart from red hot vinyl patches on the passenger and driver seat. But it was definitely worth it. This year's event was the biggest yet. A 10-year celebration of the first Festival of the Unexceptional. It's grown to an enormous size and around about 1,900 cars in attendance this year across all categories. Now, being concerned about the possibility of there being a repeat of the long queues that we saw last year on our way into the site, I left really early, picked up my friend Rob, and we made our way up and had a great run all the way up to Lincolnshire. The really fun thing is that the driveway leading from the public roads into the castle takes about 10 minutes to drive through, and that probably explains why it took 1 hour last year for us to make our way through the site when it was really busy and before they addressed the queuing issues. And this year they really had addressed it. We made our way through very easily without delay, with only one car in front of us at the ticket check. It was a massive improvement and really speaks volumes for the amount of money, care and attention that's gone into arranging this year's event, and surely those in the future. With tickets checked, it's then just a short drive into the event site, and excitement started to mount as we made our way through the entrance gate. On the left, the RAC van ready to pounce on any cars which were about to break down or had already done so. And you'll see the tent on the left, that's the event stage. As we arrived at Smith & Sniff were doing their thing. The cars which are entered for the Concours position behind us, behind gates right in front of the main house. The rest of us in our unexceptional cars park here on the lawn, either side of this road which leads almost endlessly down to the edge of the estate. It's incredible how much space there is. All of it was needed to accommodate the nearly 2,000 cars which appeared. One of the improvements that was made over last year's event was that this area on the lawn was split into two, with food, toilet and club displays bisecting the two spaces. It's a long walk all the way back to the house if you're right down the end. I was about 2/3 of the way along, but what a great walk. It's almost overwhelming because either side of the road you are confronted with a huge array of incredible cars. With the gates open nearly 12 hours from 7:30 in the morning to 7 at night, it's almost like you have an opportunity to have a rolling roadshow with cars moving along through the day. I felt that the timing changes also lent themselves to a more relaxed pace at the event, with there being less pressure to see as much as possible in a short space of time, particularly with there being nearly 900 more cars than last year's event. Understandably, I wanted to start my tour with a familiar brand. This is a 2004 Perodua Kalisa, and I'm going to keep trying to say Perodua, not Perodua, having been corrected a couple of times during the course of this year's event. This is the car that replaced the Nippa when the Nippa went out of production, although it was still available in other markets outside the UK, and just like the Nippa, is a rebadged Daihatsu in every way, shape and form, and what a cracking way to start the event. Next, we have a couple of early 90s family favourites, or should I say favourites, in the shape of a Favourite Forum estate and its hatchback brother sitting next to it, both looking like incredible survivors from a period more than 30 years ago. This was unexpected and one of my favourite cars. This is a 1993 Fiat Chroma Turbo, a car that had stopped being sold in the UK by the time this one rolled off the production line in full Italian prosecutor spec. Absolutely beautiful. Last year's favourite car for me was this 1986 Renault 11, complete with the most incredible period hi-fi system and fingertip controls. Painted in a lovely shade of dark green, I fell in love with it all over again, but then had plenty of other choice to move on to. I could barely believe my eyes when I saw this car enter the site. This is a 1978 Lancia Gamma hatchback, a car that's incredibly rare and must surely have been imported into the UK from a warm climate, given the propensity for the cars of this era to corrode. I cannot remember the last time I saw one of these. I'd forgotten just how imposing they really are. Now, whilst you're shouting at the screen, trying to tell me that the previous car was not unexceptional, here's one that really is. This is a car that almost defines the event. A previous Concours entrance, this is one of the last of the Ford Escorts, and this particular one is badged as a Mexico, but it is entirely unexotic. Going back to warmer climates, let's take a look at this delightful lemon yellow Alfa Romeo Alfetta. Wearing plates from 1979, I must admit I don't know an awful lot about these cars, and you may be shouting at the screen again trying to correct me about what model it is and what year it's from, but what a thing. Nobody was fooled in the UK when FSO rebadged the Polonaise as the Caro and gave it a facelift. Underneath it was still the same old recycled Fiat and was dreadfully poorly built, and that's why none exist, and that's why I'm delighted to see one. Talking of cars which don't exist, this had to be the most implausible survivor, a 1982 Fiat Strada automatic. Beautiful. And in stark contrast to this oil-burning Ford Sierra in MOD specification. Steve Clark brought his newly imported 1992 Renault Clio Phase 1 S to the event. This is the first chance I'd had to see it. He went all the way over to Paris to collect the car, having promised his wife a nice weekend away. Imagine her surprise. And then imagine your surprise when a Fiat Marea loomed up in your rearview mirror with this mighty 5-cylinder 2-litre engine powering this fantastic Q car. Absolutely adored this thing, and surely there must only be a very small number of these left in the UK. I was attracted to this 1981 Triumph Acclaim on account of its colour and sheer mundanity. This wonderfully preserved car should be the poster child for the event. Everything about it says unexceptional. Having made my way across the lawns, I finally entered the hallowed sanctuary of the Concours area. I haven't put any descriptions up on the screen here because most of the cars had theirs in front of them. The finalists represented a very broad spectrum of vehicle. The ultimate winner was actually a Toyota Hilux pickup truck, but all of the cars here surely were candidates to win. I was made to feel old by this curious coloured Mark I Ford car, almost identical to the one that I had in 1996 before they became fashionable or ended up as rental cars for your Spanish holiday. I really love this one. With only a few years separating the cars next to each other, this 1990 Ford Fiesta was really very humdrum, and all the better for it. I loved the off-white wheel trims, which were typical of Fords of this era. The entry from Russia was surely destined never to succeed, given recent events, but representing the UK, an Applejack Austin Mini Metro. This is a car that's well known in classic car circles and is absolutely blooming brilliant. Alongside it, in a more sober dark metallic green, a very rare boxer engined Alfa Romeo 145. I loved this glans penis purple coloured Subaru Justy, not a Suzuki Swift, you'll note. This is the very rare Subaru version fitted with all-wheel drive. And look at that fantastic 90s colour scheme. I loved it. Here's a car you hadn't realised had almost completely disappeared from Britain's roads, and I'm afraid to tell you, yes, this one is more than 25 years old. The Daewoo Lanos. This was the second generation of Daewoo's imported into the UK, and these ones were built in Poland. They sold really well, but almost all of them have disappeared. Last year was the 40th anniversary of the Citroën BX going into production, but here was an opportunity to watch some of the fantastic hydro pneumatic suspension system in action as the event started to clear out. A lot of owners used the opportunity to bring their cars together, parking next to similar models and driving them around a little bit as space was created. It gave me a chance to have a look around this terrific Peugeot 305 estate. No car said survivor more than this one. Covered in rust spots with freshly welded sills and really exhibiting a sign of determination, this surely had to be one of the most fantastic cars in the entire display, and probably one of the rarest. Taxi! Yes, at one point this would have been seen with a minicab sign on the roof, the Hyundai Stella, the rebodied Ford Cortina that was a mainstay of the taxi rank in the 80s and into the 90s. This lovely metallic bronze coloured car had the most inviting interior I've seen for a long time. Proudly displaying its lack of forward speeds, this is a very early Ford Sierra 1.6 GL. Very few of these cars survive on the Y number plate suffix, even fewer with the original wheel trims, dangle mirrors and this truly 80s beige-tastic colour scheme. Now over 40 years old, it's astonishing that a car that would have seen life likely as a fleet car is still with us, and it deserves its place at the show. As the event started to clear out later in the day, we had an opportunity to see some of the cars in motion, and for me this was my favourite. This is the Talbot Mancha Marina, a car which is probably best known for its 3-arrest seating pattern. Have a look as it drives past, because this is a rare opportunity not only to see a very rare car, but one that has all 3 seats occupied. I hope it wasn't too tight in there and that nobody had eaten anything particularly pungent that might fill the car with a ghastly stink. Poor thing in the middle of those 2 men. I've included this base spec Mercedes-Benz S280 in this video because of its base spec. Absolutely beautiful colour, quite unusual, and I appreciated it being there. Just like these two, early Phase 1 Renault Meganes, base spec 1.4, 1.9 diesel, choose your fighter. I really wanted a drag race, but in the end we ended up going in convoy with the Skoda Labia all the way to McDonald's, and thankfully without the need for a tow bar. What a sight to end the show. Time for some more sped up footage. As we make our way out of the site, an opportunity to think about the event in 2024. There was quite a lot of negative comments in the run up to the event, most of which centred around the price of a ticket. But with the price being per car, and with most people seeming to share the cars, it represented terrific value, and the money that had been put into running the event this year was certainly noticed. There were enormous improvements in the way that traffic was managed in and out of the site, the availability of catering and toilet facilities, and also the way that display was set up, having a nice break halfway through. And to those commenting that the event didn't sell out, well, that's because they added so many more tickets than there were last year. They were still available almost until the last moment, but almost every place was taken. This is truly the biggest and best classic car show in Europe.